we're behind a couch. We're hiding behind a couch, and there are children on the couch because it was this whole surprise where the count is, they were doing this whole Halloween thing. And it goes out, and he's like, can you get that person's attention? Because like he's like in the count, he can't wave his arms, so he's ready. And so I'm just like, hey!
Welcome back to Puppeteers. We're your hosts, Adam Krutinger
and Cameron Garrity.
And today on the show, we have Hayley Jenkins. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much, guys. I'm so happy to be interviewed. It's such a pleasure.
So for anybody who doesn't know, Hayley Jenkins is the amazing puppeteer behind work at Sesame Street, as well as the new Fred Rogers production show, Don Quixote. And we're so excited to jump into all things that she works on. Hayley Jenkins, welcome to Puppeteers.
Thank you so much, you guys. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. Long overdue, but we like to start off just seeing what you're working on now. Do you have any projects that you're working on right now?
Yeah, it's all Don Quixote every day, all day. It's yeah. So we shoot Donkey out in Chicago, and right now I happen to be home this week in the lovely state of New Jersey, and yeah. But when I'm not here, I'm in Chicago shooting Don Quixote. We've been shooting since 2019, season one still. We're still in season one.
I was gonna say you're right now. You're filming season one still.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
How many episodes are you guys doing?
40. We're doing 40 episodes, but every episode has 2 stories. It's nuts.
Oh my God, what year is this? It's like 8 is a lot now for most shows. Holy cow.
Yeah.
I don't even hear that anymore.
I know. I've never worked on anything like this that's gone like this, but we're coming up on 2 years. It'll be 2 years November 9th, and we wrap up season 1 at the end of November.
Do you know why they're having that many episodes in the season? Why not break it up, especially if it's over this much time?
Well, I think that the original order was for 40. I think that's a thing that's been happening with the first season of new shows. Often they'll do a really big order, and then the subsequent seasons will be a smaller order. And I think that's kind of what the idea was behind Don Quixote. It was never supposed to film for 2 years, but
sure. That's a product of 2020.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we had to shut down, and also the schedule is such where we just we shoot usually 2 weeks on, 1 week off, or 3 weeks on, 2 weeks off, or it's very back and forth. We never shot longer than 3 weeks in a row before having like a week. So just the schedule is very spread out.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Does that give people time to like potentially like powers that be review footage, kind of see what's working, what's not? I mean, I'm sure it's nice to just have a break in general, but like, does that give people time to kind of like debrief and maybe do a postmortem so that the next episodes get better and better?
Exactly. Yeah, I do think that's a big part of it. Another big part of it is just the prep. We have a really phenomenal art department that is creating all these new sets and effects and practical effects and crazy machines that actually work. And there's a lot of prep that goes into every episode, and they kind of take those off weeks and do that. Then also David Rudman is, creator and director and puppeteer, but since he also does Cookie Monster amongst many other characters, he has to, he's flying back and forth between Chicago and Sesame Street in New York, and
right wherever Cookie Monster is needed.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been a very spread out, nice thing, but it's cool. It's been such a gift to have this schedule, because usually you do a first season of something and it's so short and it's so fast, and then you look back on it and you're like, oh man, I want the character to grow in this way that we didn't get to do first season. And then sometimes you don't get a second season, and maybe you as a performer feel like you didn't reach your full potential in the short time that you had, even though we do our best to get there, but sometimes you just don't. And for this show, it's really given us a lot of time to figure out who these characters are and have fun with them and to develop them in a way that I've never had the time to do for anything else. So it's been a very different experience in that way.
Yeah, I mean, it really is like the good old days of what you hear, like, you know, Pam Arciero or Jim Krupa talk about, of just like being able to really dig in, and you not only get to know your character really well, but you get to know how other performers are doing their characters too, and it really allows that chemistry to really set in. That's got to be a blast.
Yeah, definitely. It's cool too because you know, we are airing episodes. We premiered the show beginning of May. And since then, you know, we're still shooting episodes, so we can look back and see things and see what people are really enjoying and really play off of, you know, the audience reactions that we're getting, or the critic reactions. Yeah, and then also, yeah, as a performer, I can say like my performance, I know, has changed dramatically since day one. And I mean, we all have, just because of the nature of doing it every day for 2 years. Yeah, you change and you grow and you know, you improve. But then also, yeah, just the relationships between the characters just get to deepen that much more. It's like a very, I don't know how to put it. It feels like a very like grounded show to work on when you get to spend that much time on it. It feels like you like really live there, and you're really, you know, kind of feel like when you got Don Quixote on, like I feel very connected to her, and same with, you know, Frankie Cordero playing Purple Panda, and you know, we're in most every scene together. So yeah, their relationship has really grown, and yeah, it's a gift to be employed during all of this craziness. I'm so lucky. But then also
that sounds so amazing. Yeah. And I want to talk more about Don Quixote a lot too. I've got a lot more questions about it too. But would you want to kind of start off?
Yeah, let's
go back a little further first.
Yeah. You know, you've been on some really wonderful podcasts, Below the Frame with Matt Vogel. You were on Dan and Nate's podcast. You've been on the DJ Bob show, but would love to talk to you about your artistic upbringing and sort of how you found puppetry or theater or performance.
Yeah, I would love to. I didn't know I was going to go down the path of puppetry at all. I wasn't one of those, you know, lucky kids who, you know, got to eat, sleep, and breathe Muppets. I had my Muppets things that I loved, which was Muppet Vision 3D in Disney World, and Muppet Family Christmas. And that's really all the Muppets stuff that I knew, but I loved them very deeply. And of course, you know, we all grew up on Sesame Street and Lamb Chop and all that stuff. Those were my shows. Well, Sesame, Lamb Chop, and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood were, it's like the trio, the holy trinity of puppet shows. But for me, I thought I was going into musical theater. I did, you know, all the plays and the musicals in high school, and ended up going to school at Point Park University in Pittsburgh for musical theater just for a year, and then left to do the Disney College program, and that's the first time I ever did puppetry for a living.
So before you went to Disney there, what musicals were you a part of in high school and in the community then?
I did. I was Sandy in Grease, like every.
Woo!
Yeah. Woo!
I've been in Grease twice.
That's
too.
Heck
yeah.
I was Sunny both times. So.
Oh, amazing!
Yeah.
That's
Had
great.
to dye my hair, but.
Yeah, you know. What was it? High school?
Oh, no, I actually did it. Well, I did one right out of. Was I in high school? The first one? I may have. No, I think I was just out of high school the first time I did it, and the other one was just maybe like 4 years ago. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it was fun.
It's a fun show.
Sandy, huh? Wow.
It is, yeah.
I see you more
Oh, yeah.
of a Rizzo for sure.
Thank you, because
Yeah.
that's
You're
what I
welcome.
wanted to
You're
be.
That's right. Well, actually, to be
Thanks.
Sandy, you have to be able to play both of them. To be Rizzo, you only have to be able to do Rizzo.
That is true, but I will say Rizzo's the cool one. Everyone wants to be cast as Rizzo. That's the dream.
That's great.
That was the dream. At least that was, 16-year-old me's dream, was to be like cool enough to be considered. I wasn't even considered. I was not a cool 16-year-old girl at all. But yeah, so Sandy, I did like a West Side Story. I was one of the shark girls. I was Teresita. It was North Carolina, and we didn't know any better. We should have known better. But again, I was like 15. They're like, she has brown hair and can be a little tan.
Yeah.
No good.
When I was 6 or 7, I was one of the kids in a production of Once on This Island, and I was too young to know like anything that was going on. It was for St. Joe's, so it was, my cousin was in high school, and they needed some young kids, and I just remember every day going after the performance, going home and just taking a bath and like seeing all of the dark brown makeup coming off of my arm and face. And
Yeah, what were, the adults watching us thinking?
It's a different time.
It
was
was
crazy.
Oh my gosh, yep. Yeah, that's
Wow.
different time, I guess.
So when you were in high school and stuff, what made you think that, like, because a lot of people do musicals and stuff in high school, but don't always pursue it outside of that, the performing. What about it really made you want to keep going with it?
I think it was a way for me to feel brave. Honestly, I was really, really shy. Really shy in high school. I just had so much social anxiety and would be so nervous to, go to a high school party or something. And but if you're on a stage, you're playing a character, and I felt really alive, and I felt really bold and free, and same with all the other kids that were up there with me. And I think we all just found this community that was accepting and not so scary. I think that was a really big part of it, honestly, just to kind of dive into the deep end of it. But I felt more like myself when I was playing a character than sometimes I felt when I was just being me, walking the halls and trying to not be noticed by, by the popular girl that I knew might say something mean. But it was very freeing.
Now, like the stereotypical puppeteer, is someone who has those same social anxieties, but and is able to like really come alive when they hide themselves and put the puppet on. It sounds like you didn't need to go that far. You were comfortable as yourself on stage. Did you, when you found puppetry, did you find that you were able to go deeper into your characters and such when you were able to completely remove your physical body from the equation? Or like what's sort of that preference in terms of what you're able to do to access characters as a human performer versus a dolly wiggler?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. Like it is a way for a lot of us puppeteers who have those social anxieties, who found this freedom, being able to express everything that you want to express, but it takes away all of the fear of someone looking at you and judging you, because they're just looking at this, and it's very freeing. I'll say when I did it for the first time, I loved puppets as a kid, of course. Like I had like a puppet show that I wrote about recycling that I did in like my elementary school, like I was definitely very into it, but the first time I ever really did it amongst professionals was in Disney World. And yeah, it's something that for me, it took all the things that I loved about musical theater, which was, character and acting and singing and dancing. And I'm not a good dancer. So that was something that this was also kind of a relief that choreography, you still have to have skills, but you don't have to do like a triple pirouette. It's all good. But it took all the things that I really loved and it just like condensed it into this package that made a lot of sense and felt very natural and felt like something that I was better at than just the theater stuff. I knew that I had limitations with theater. I knew that I wasn't a phenomenal dancer, and I, did dance training every day, and I topped out at a place where I was like, I don't think I'm gonna get better than this, no matter how hard I tried. Like maybe a little bit, but it's just not a skill that I'm naturally that gifted with. And so you find puppets and it's like, oh, okay, this takes all the elements that I love and it just packs it into something that you can literally pack up in your bag. And it's just very freeing.
And then you get to walk out of the back door of a theater and no one, comes up and bothers you.
Yeah.
You don't have to sit in a makeup chair, no costume changes. There is for the puppet, but someone else is doing that, right?
Someone else.
Yeah, so much smoother.
Yeah, 100%.
It's like when people say the difference between like being like a newscaster on TV and a newscaster on the radio. Like they do it in their pajamas and no makeup.
Yes.
And, oh, geez. Yeah, same kind of thing
Feels
between puppetry
great.
and theater. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm wearing workout shorts and who cares? You can't tell.
That's right.
Nope.
That's great.
Now you know, but
Wow. Yeah, because holy cow, that's so awesome. Yeah. So through Disney, then you started doing the puppetry. Yeah, we've heard the story of having the choice between oh my god, I almost said Ghostbusters, not Ghostbusters. Power Rangers,
cool.
between Power Rangers and the puppetry, which is that's so.
Now if it had been Ghostbusters and puppetry, I may have gone a different path.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's fun. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Well, at the time, I had been in these dance classes and all these theater classes and everything all day, every day, and so I was very, very, very fit and very able to do a Power Ranger role, and but yeah, so long story short, I got cast in the entertainment department, but specifically, I was going to be doing characters, but also the puppetry aspect. And then also I was supposed to learn the pink Power Ranger role because they were about to introduce the Yellow Ranger and they needed just to add more female performers to the mix. But then, they scheduled both of them in the same 2-week span and they said, just pick one, you'll learn the other one later. And so I picked puppetry because that sounded really cool. And then I never became a Power Ranger. And it's the best decision I ever made.
And how long were you doing puppetry at Disney?
I did it for 3 years, for 2006 through 2009. I worked on their Little Mermaid, the Voyage of the Little Mermaid show. Flounder was my first puppet ever. I don't know if you guys know how those puppets, or do you guys know that show, the Voyage of the Little Mermaid?
No.
Florida?
I've seen some behind. Honestly, I don't really remember. I remember what the show looks like. I remember seeing a behind the scenes video, but I really don't remember.
It's like I think it's a 16-minute long show, I believe, but there's a big Under the Sea number. It's all blacklight puppetry, so we're all in solid black, and they've got the special lights on us, and so everything's glowing, and everyone has all these different sea creatures, and it's a big choreographed lip syncing, number. But flounder is very easy. Flounder is a big foam flounder fish with a black rod coming out the end of it with a little bike brake handle, and the bike brake just moves as flippers. And that's it. You're just swimming around, and I loved it. I really loved it. And then I did their Playhouse Disney Live on Stage show, which was more the traditional Muppet style puppetry.
Yeah, we've had a couple people on the show who've talked about, the experience of being a park puppeteer.
Yeah.
Can you talk just a little bit about like what that schedule is and you need stamina to do any kind of puppetry and specifically like television puppetry, but it sounds like at the parks, it's just like at a whole other level, not just because of the amount of shows you're doing, but like the puppets also seem like they're maybe more heavy duty because they just need to be built to last in a different way too.
And sometimes they're slightly larger scale too for like floats and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember working there. We were told that the puppets were designed to last 10 years with 10 years of use, which is a very long time for a puppet to be usable. And so, yeah, they're really, really heavy duty. But yeah, I will say this. It's a totally different thing between puppeteering on a monitor or TV puppetry and park puppetry. But I think that those puppeteers who do park puppetry have more stamina than I think. I mean, I hate to say it, but that I think that most of us have here in TV, because we do have the ability to come down if we need to, if we absolutely have to, if things are cramped up, if we've been there for like doing like a 3-minute long dance number and something's like getting tired, like if we must, we can be like, okay, we got to have a cut somewhere in here. My hand is not moving. But with park puppetry, you can't, like, you just can't. And I remember doing it, and just the puppets are so much heavier than anything that I personally use on TV. They're so much heavier. It's a good, 8 pounds, which is a lot to have on your hand. You guys know.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
It's a lot, and they're so stiff. I played Darby. Darby was like the female version of Christopher Robin for one of the puppet pieces in Playhouse Disney Live on Stage. And her mouth was about this wide. It was this tiny little mouth, and it could open about this much. And to open it that much, you had your hand in there, and you had to force it so hard just to get it there. It was impossible. Like, you could go in from the outside and try to open it, and it was just like you try to break in these things and you really couldn't. And so all of us, I would say all the pain would be right here. I did get one weird injury from that show that still shows up, actually. And it's that from doing that, from the weird amount of stress that's just there because of the weight and the time that you're up there doing it. One of the tendons in my hand, every once in a while will pop out of place and go to it'll cross over in my wrist. It sounds really gross, but it'll happen like when I'm brushing my teeth. If my hand's at like that angle, sometimes it'll just pop out and I just have to move my hand a weird way and I'll pop back in. But it's from doing that show.
I think that's why they find new college students every year.
Yeah, that's exactly why.
Oh my gosh.
Destroys their wrist from it. Yeah, I never have that on any other show that I've worked on with TV. I've never had that kind of pain. Like, we all get pains and, slip discs and stuff, but oh my gosh, the people who do park puppetry for a living, they are so strong and so amazing for pushing through and for finding ways to make it work for their body without destroying themselves. They're really phenomenal puppeteers, but just phenomenal athletes, really, with what they got to do. It's pretty
That's
cool.
Amazing. Do you have any advice for anyone who would maybe want to try to start to be a Disney puppeteer? Because one thing I'll preface this with as well is I remember way back when I was in college too, and I saw that little table tent about work at Disney, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I went to that call, and one thing that I wish it said on there, which it didn't say on there, is that you've got no chance of doing anything if you can't kind of dance at least.
Yeah,
The whole thing, the whole audition was a dance audition.
Yes, it is.
And I'm like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So that being said, there might be some puppeteers with two left feet when it comes to dancing who might have a barrier to becoming a Disney puppeteer unless there's another avenue that you know of, or any advice to anyone who would, again, want to get into being a Disney puppeteer.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And I know that, I haven't been there since 2009, so I know that a lot of the structure of how it works has certainly changed. But at least when I was there, to be a Disney puppeteer, you have to be in the Disney entertainment department, which means that you will also be doing costumed characters. And, I also played or was friends with Pluto and Flick and all sorts of other little, creatures. But uh, I would say if you want to specifically puppeteer for the Disney Entertainment Department, at least for Disney World. I can't speak to Disneyland. Disneyland, for a while there, it was actually a separate department where you would just audition for puppetry. So the dance aspect, I don't think is as crucial. But for the Disney Entertainment side, I would say if you want to be a puppeteer, you do have to understand that you'll also be doing other things. It's very unlikely that you'll just be puppeteering, which I think is a wonderful thing, because you're still going to get your puppetry training, but also you get to see all these other aspects of performance and of puppetry in a way. When you're in Pluto, you've got to learn how to puppeteer this giant thing, since you can't speak, you can't whatever. It's all gestures. It's all making, tableaus that read as certain dog gestures, and that, that kid and then that other person who maybe don't speak the same language, they both understand what you're saying. It all kind of comes back to it,
Yeah, and that's a tremendous skill to then be able to take into your puppetry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they kind of use the dance thing there for the audition just to see how trainable you are, how much of a mover you are. If we can't get this kid to do a box step in 5 minutes, how the heck we get him to teach him how to do anything else, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it kind of shows how trainable you are. So yeah, as long as you're a good mover and good at following directions, I think you'd have a decent shot.
Absolutely. And I would also encourage people, once in-person big classes are something that are safe again, I would encourage people just to take, community level 1, like absolute beginner, movement or dance classes. Like it might feel really awkward, and you might know, like, I'm never going to be a dancer, but it's never a bad thing just to try and just learn, how to stand on your mark or how to.
And also, get involved in local community theater is a good way too. Right. So
absolutely.
Yeah. That's great.
Absolutely. Then you might end up doing Grease.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So your first professional experience in puppetry being, the park puppetry. What was it like then when you did find your way to, studio puppetry and television puppetry, and all of a sudden the puppets are lighter and you do get to put your arm down, and like that had to be like such a relief. Like, oh my gosh, okay, this I could do.
Yeah,
what was
this I could do for the long haul.
Yeah, what was that first opportunity then?
I know exactly when it was. My first time putting on a puppet that was made for not having to last 10 years was I got called back for the first national tour of Avenue Q, and at the callback they gave me Kate, and I put her on, and I was like, oh like this, like not saying that she's easy to do, by no means. It's not easy to do her, but the weight of it, she just weighed nothing, and I was like, this is amazing. But then I had a really bad habit that I had developed in Disney, because in Disney, all the puppetry you're doing from Playhouse Disney, you're underneath a floor. So there's a floor, you're bent down, you've got trap doors, and you're stretching straight up like this to get your puppet where it needs to be. It's similar to the stance you'd be in television. But for Avenue Q, they want you here. And at the callback, I blew it for a lot of reasons. I was not ready for the show at the time, but I was there's a fine line, and then I would just start.
Wow. That's the opposite problem anyone else ever has. Their puppet's always sinking, and yours is going up. That's funny. I wonder too about even faces too, because you're always hitting. Maybe you don't realize you're making a weird face.
Yeah.
But Avenue Q, again, that's one of the few times that you have to be aware of your body more, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's people. As puppeteers, we should all be actors first, because that's the only way to make any of this stuff matter, is if people care about who the character is, But especially with something like Avenue Q, half the time the audience is just watching the performer, as they should. They're both equally engaging. Yeah.
Totally. No, I love that though. It's like when you go to pick up a can of soda that you think is like completely filled and it's empty, and you just go whoop. Same thing with the Kate puppet. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
You don't need
yeah,
all
just
the strength that you have.
Yeah.
No,
100%.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So did that audition then end, like, kind of move you towards like meeting people who were in the New York puppetry film community, or
Where was
honestly,
that? Was that in
yeah,
Florida?
Yeah,
that audition was in New York.
In New York, okay.
Yeah, I happened to be in DC, and I saw that there was that they were having an audition, and so I took a train up and did it, and then the callback was like 2 weeks later, so I flew back to New York to do that. But no, actually, that didn't that wasn't the catalyst for me leaving Florida. For me, I left Florida.
because it was Florida.
I was going to say, you don't have to give me any reasons to leave Florida.
Yeah, I left Florida because Florida.
Yeah.
No,
No disrespect.
Alligators,
disrespect.
pythons. There's a couple reasons that
There's. I love Florida, and I'm really happy that I lived there for the time that I did, and that I'm out.
Enough said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. It's just so damn hot. It's so hot.
There's days in
Okay,
Buffalo
so-
I can't go outside. It's so hot. I
Yeah.
can't even imagine being in Florida.
It's like soup all the time. It's just as soon as the temperature gets slightly cool, like as soon as it hits maybe like the high 60s, everyone puts on like their winter hats and their scarves because it just feels so great to be in a different kind of weather.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but to get back on
Sorry,
track.
good- yeah,
no,
I took
it's
a
fine.
sign
I
off.
could.
Yeah.
No, it's great. I love it. The thing that got me, or that made me decide to leave Florida, was I knew somebody who worked at the Henson lot on La Brea in LA. She was a friend of a friend that I just met at a party once. And I contacted her and I was like, hey, I'm a puppeteer. I just want to throw this out there. I don't know if you guys ever host any sort of auditions, or I have no idea how to even step a foot into the door there. And do you have any advice? Do you have anything? And she was like, let me talk to Patrick Bristow, as he runs our Puppet Up classes, and see if he knows anything. And he ended up saying, you know what, she can come and just participate in one of the Puppet Up classes, and we'll see if maybe we'll invite her to stay, maybe not. And so I did that. I flew out to LA. My sister was living there at the time, so I flew out, stayed with her, and then went and did a Puppet Up class. And Patrick asked me to stay and said, we'd love to have you come back for more of these classes if it's something that you think is in the cards. And I said, absolutely, I would love to.
Had you had much improv training at that point?
No. I mean, in school, yes. In the School for Musical Theater, we did a lot of improv, in the acting classes. But not really. No, it was all very, very new. But I didn't do anything phenomenal. It
goes a long way to just not suck. Right?
And be a good person. Yeah.
Because some people, I imagine some people just bomb or freeze. The fact that you were still left with your head up is probably, can say a lot.
Well, thanks. I'm not going to say I didn't have many days where I absolutely bombed and just sat in my car afterwards and I was like, well, I guess I'm not going to ever work again. But yeah, so he asked me to stay, but then on top of that, Sean and Patrick Johnson of the Swazzle Boys, they were in that class. And they were casting for the Pee Wee Herman show. And
oh, that's right.
yeah, and so they I think it was Sean sent me a Facebook message like a week after that class, and he was like, hey, we're casting for this. it's technically an intern position, like, because basically they had been rehearsing for a couple weeks and they discovered that they needed 2 more puppeteers. Are you interested? And I was like, yes. So I went to LA and did that, and so I was doing the Puppet Up classes and Pee Wee, and then Pee Wee came to New York and I went with it. So so that's kind of how I found my way to New York. But
Back doing
That's great.
stage puppets again. Right?
Yeah.
back to those stage puppets. Yeah.
Now, you didn't mention the Pee Wee Herman show in your holy trinity of Mr. Rogers, Lamb Chop, Sesame, but were you a fan of the show? Like, did you know the show at all?
No, I didn't. I didn't know the show. I grew up on 99% Disney stuff. My mom worked for the Disney store, and honestly, she worked for the Disney store, well, for work, but also a big reason was just that her kids, me and my sister, we were so into Disney that it was a really great way, an affordable way to get discounted rooms at the parks and to get free tickets for your family and to get, discounted DVDs of Disney or not DVDs. It would have been VHSs when I was growing up, but VHSs of Disney stuff. And yeah, so Pee Wee Herman wasn't even on my radar. I knew who he was, but I didn't see a single episode until I was cast in the show and I started watching it and I was like, oh, okay, this is brilliant and so funny. And I love the show. And now I'm a huge fan. But no, I did not grow up with it. Did you guys grow up with it?
No, my only exposure to it was he was in I think the Put Down the Ducky music video, so, like the extended celebrity version, I think. So that was my limit. Like, so I knew him the same way I knew the Simpsons, basically. But no, I still haven't seen very much of it.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I did not watch it growing up, but somehow I knew who he was and had an image of what the show was.
Yeah.
So I hadn't seen an episode, but I did watch it on. Was it on Netflix, the stage version?
Yes.
How did I watch it? Yeah, I watched it.
Yeah, it was on Netflix. It was also on like every Delta flight for a minute.
Oh, okay.
So it was like back when they gave you like 4 movie choices on like your teeny TV. One of them was
paid an exposure.
Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome. Like, this is random.
Yeah.
But it's the show's so funny. I'm gonna say that I think the most perfect moment of the Pee Wee Herman show is the actual TV show. There's an episode where he has a dog. I want to say the dog's name is Roosevelt. I'm pretty sure it's Roosevelt. There's a dog, and he's like, okay, time for your dinner, and he puts down this wet dog food, and then the shot just sits for like a minute on this close-up shot of a dog eating wet dog food, like at like bowl level, and it's the most disgusting things. There's just like so much saliva, and it's just like the microphone is right there, and they just hold on it forever, and then they go back to him, and he's just like just making this disgusted face, and it's just so funny. It's like I don't know, it just his brand of humor is so unique and so bold, and he just commits to every bit he does.
Oh my gosh, totally
Very funny.
And so what was that experience? Because he was actually in the show, like, and he's such a character. I mean, both on and off screen, but certainly there's a solid line between who he is on stage and off stage. Like, what was it like to just interact with such an iconic celebrity at that point? Because that was probably one of the first people, I mean, outside of Pluto, that you got to really interface with.
It was very cool. He's a really lovely man. The first day I met him, at the end of the day, it was a rehearsal day, and at the end, I was getting in the elevator to like head down. We were rehearsing at the Sunset Gower Studios, in LA, and I got in an elevator or a stairwell. I can't remember, but I was going through a door to exit. And right before I go in, I hear, Hayley. I turn around and he has a camera and he snaps a picture of me like just as I turn. I was like, what was that? And he was like, thank you. And he just walked away. And someone else was like, oh, he takes a picture of everyone he works with. And he has like folders of everything he's ever worked on. That way he'll know your name. He'll write down like little things about you. That way he can call you by your name and make sure he just makes sure that people know that they're seen. It's just a really special thing. And he's still,
Looking at that picture every day.
Every single day. I mean, I assume. But no, he still like sends me a birthday text every year, and I get a Christmas card.
Oh my God,
yeah,
that's crazy.
It's like my one like celebrity name drop I have is that I get a text from Pee Wee Herman. And they're always these like ridiculous, pictures of like really ugly birthday cakes. They'll say like "Happy Birthday, Hayley," and we'll chat for a minute. But yeah, he's very good at being connected with people, and he's very calm in normal everyday life. He's nothing like his character. He's just the exact opposite. Very, very subdued. But yeah, and being a part of the show, puppeteering in the show, I got to witness firsthand, and I've told this story in a lot of podcasts because it was just my favorite moment of being on that show. But opening night, he got 2 standing ovations within the first 5 minutes of the show. One when he walked out onto the stage, and at the very top he walks out onto the stage and the curtain is still closed behind him. You can't see the playhouse. And he walked out and it had to have been 2 minutes of people screaming for him. And then he says the Pledge of Allegiance with the audience, and he goes back, and then the curtain opens and it reveals the playhouse. And then that got another like 2-3 minutes. I've never seen a standing ovation like that, or just the cheers, like the roar of the crowd. I've never seen or heard anything like that before. And I've been to many Backstreet Boys concerts. I've been to 8.
Wow.
And Pee Wee got the best. But I could see him from my little spot underneath like this part on the stage. I could see him before he entered before he entered through the playhouse doors, and he just burst into tears when he heard the roar of the people. I think it was very special to get to witness that. Yeah, he's very lovely.
Wow, yeah, that is amazing.
Yeah, and just one of those special. I love intimate moments like that. I think we as puppeteers and just in general people behind the scenes, you get to witness these really special moments that inform the shows and the projects that you're a part of, but not the general audience doesn't get to see, and that's really, really cool.
Absolutely. Just that, getting to see, because I can't imagine being someone who, had such a big height of fame and then disappeared for a while and came back and just didn't know how is this audience going to receive him? Like, is he still going to have an audience? And just see like the realization that I believe is what we got to witness, as puppeteers, seeing, peeking at him, seeing that moment on his face, seeing it register. It was just a really beautiful thing to witness, and very, very intimate, I would say. I agree with that.
That's
amazing.
Wow.
Sounds so special. What a memory to have. Yeah,
it was very special.
So did Pee-wee's Playhouse directly lead to something else for you?
It led me to being in New York, and being in New York led to opportunities with Sesame Street and just getting to know the wonderful community of puppeteers here opens up the door for anyone who wants to puppeteer and who lives here in New York. I think as long as you get to know the community and put the work in and be someone who is supportive of the other people in the community, then I think you get work. That's been my general experience. I know that's not how it always is, but if you're here and if you want it and if you work at it and if you're kind about it, you can do it.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said about just putting yourself in that place. You know, and of course there's luck and there's, you know, timing and all those things as well. But I think, yeah, you playing the long game of just being a kind person and being in the space is huge.
Well, and I hope I'm a kind person, and not to be like, I'm such a kind person and that's why I work. But, you know, but being someone who I hope, at least, I think we've all worked on things where maybe there's, we've all worked on shows where maybe there's a lot of attitudes or there's, you know, just some egos that don't feel good to be around, that don't make people like myself, who's usually an assist, it doesn't make you feel great to be around that kind of an energy that just can feel a little bit competitive. And so I definitely try when I have the opportunity to do something like Don Quixote, where I get to be in a position of power. But you know, when I get to be in a position like that, I try to it is at least my very conscious goal is to try and not create an environment where the assist, or where maybe a newer puppeteer, or, you know, someone who's maybe struggling with something that day, I want people to always feel comfortable with failing, because God knows I do it every single day, and that it's okay. And I try to give that, I guess, kindness. I don't know. You'd have to ask somebody else, though, if any of that actually works, if any of my goal of being nice to people reads.
We've heard good things. So.
Oh, good. Great. Fantastic. I did it.
But so when, you know, you mentioned doing a lot of assisting work and such on Sesame, and we could talk about that, but I definitely want to get to some of the other things. One notable piece that I'd love to hear more about is you working with, was it Sari?
Zari, yeah, the Muppet
Zari.
from Afghanistan.
Yeah. What was that audition process like, and then just being able to do that work in such an impactful way?
Yeah. Thank you for asking about her. I love her so much. So Zari is the first named puppet I did for Sesame Street. And she, so the audition process was that, from what I can remember, this was back in, I think, 2017, I'm pretty sure, possibly 2016. But a bunch of the female puppeteers, we were all called in to read for Zari. And so Zari existed already on Bakshi Sim Sim, which is Sesame Garden in Afghanistan. And she was, or is played by two puppeteers, Mansoura and Sima, and they speak Dari and Pashto. But for the purposes of doing English interviews with Zari here in the States, it just wasn't super easy or safe to get those women here. And they can speak English perfectly wonderfully, but it was really just a logistics thing of getting them here to do interviews was very difficult. And so the audition process was a lot of improvising. We had a script, and it was Marty Robinson was in the room doing the audition with a whole team of the International Sesame folks. And yeah, I remember there was also a big question of the accent, of what would be appropriate as a native English speaker. What level of accent is appropriate, what's not, and that's definitely changed a lot. And we kind of landed on a nice place that we feel is appropriate for her, where it's not no accent, because she would have an accent, but it's not a caricature of, you know, Afghan girl.
You're not like
it's
tanking
just,
or, anything that would be indecent.
yes, exactly. Yeah, the last thing we would ever want to do is to feel like we're doing a character who's what is the word I'm looking for? Um, identity is just that she's from Afghanistan. Like that's not enough. She's a whole other thing. She just happens to live there, and so the accent uh, is a very small part of her character for sure. But yeah, so we did that, and then I got a call from Marty while I was in a coffee shop, and he called and he was like, "So you want to be this kid? You want to do it?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, I do! That's awesome!" And yeah, it was yeah. So I was cast as Zari and got to do a bunch of really cool interviews here. On some very important stuff. Her whole thing is going to school, is Zari's whole push and whole kind of reason for existing on that show is that girls and women haven't had, for a very long time, didn't have the opportunity to attend school, or there is, or was a stigma of, if they did attend school, maybe it was through like the 5th grade. There were a lot that seemed to be around the age that often if girls were leaving school, it was around that age. And of course now with everything that's been happening in Afghanistan, there's a lot of questions and stuff up in the air, but I am very, very happy to report the whole Sesame team has been in contact with us about what's happening over there, and they've been able to successfully get them all visas and safely get them out of the country. Yeah, it is a really scary thing because that, the whole Sesame team there has been a target. They've, at some point, they had one of their transport vans bombed years ago and lost one of their editors. It's been a really scary but insanely brave and inspiring thing that those people have been doing every day, and it's so heartbreaking that now we don't know what the future of that is, but we hope it's still there in some way. We know that there is a life for it somewhere. We just don't know what it is, but those people are safe, thank goodness. Yeah, but it has been really an honor to be any part of that story. It's not, Zari, I love Zari so much, but I don't see her as my character. I see her as very much belonging to the women who created her, and I'm just a tool to help spread her message in whatever way I can. But yeah, she's very special.
I'm glad you said that, because that's a part of that process that I'm really quite fascinated with. When we had Fran Brill on last year, she talked about performing the South African character Cammy for similar type of appearances in the United States. What I imagine there's a degree to which you have to put it out of your head when you're actively performing, but like, what is, how are you compartmentalizing those facets of, I've got the thing on, so I need to just perform it and be her as much as I can, but also not encroaching and really trying to be that ambassador to the character in the way that you just described. Like, how, when you were performing her, what were you thinking as you were, sitting there with Katie Couric or whatever?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had a whole lot of support. There's a whole team of people with Sesame that were going through, talking points with me and to say, like, if this kind of question comes up, like, this is how we want to navigate it. This is the kind of thing that you can pass off, to Sherry Weston was in that interview with me. And so a lot of those like broader things, there was a very cut and dry way to do it, where we were all very careful to not, I guess, overstep or take this character into a conversation that maybe Mansoor and Seema wouldn't have. But I will say that, yeah, when she's on your hand, you're thinking of who's the character, like how would she react, or how would the puppeteers who created her, like what, trying to channel them as much as you can, and just, yeah, watching everything that those women have ever done, and just trying to like really, really get Zari's spirit.
I imagine you can always kind of fall back on the idea that you're playing such a little kid, right?
Yeah.
It's like think of again. I don't think this is an exact example. I'm making up this example, but like if Elmo's on, and then the host says, "What's it like being one of the biggest stars in the world?" And he's just like, "Well, I'm just 3," like right, whatever. Like,
hey, that was a great Elmo.
Oh gosh, no, I wasn't even trying.
Watch out, Ryan Dillon.
No. Oh god, I wouldn't even tempt it. I had to hurt myself. But just falling back to the idea of a lot of times those hosts aren't used to, they're used to talking. Well, actually, we've talked about this before too. They're used to talking to the actor behind the character, not the character. Like you say, when Tom Hanks comes on, he's not talking to Woody, right? He's talking to Tom Hanks.
Yes.
Same kind of thing. And then they're probably not even that used to talking to characters either. So, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I found that when I have done these interviews, or there were a lot of Zari meet and greets with, there was International Day of the Girl was something that one of the first things that we did with Zari. And so there was this whole meet and greet with, it was basically like a big kind of like a gala sort of thing that we were at. And so whenever someone would come up, most of the conversations that we had, like, we're not talking about these big adult things. Like, with Zari's pointing out their pretty bracelet and saying,
Exactly.
I have bracelets too. And like, connecting on those ways, or playing in some way. Yeah, it is. It all does come down to the age of the character that you're playing, and same with Carly, because Carly, is the other character I do for Sesame, who's a foster kid, and so she has a lot of knowledge about some very adult things, but it still isn't what she wants to talk about. She wants to play. She wants to have fun. She's a kid, and like maybe these things will come up and she knows how to answer them. But yeah, it does always come back to the be a kid first. Yeah.
There was a great joke on I don't know if you watched the Amber Ruffin show, but when they introduced Elijah and Wes on the show earlier this year, and they did a great Weekend Update type joke about it, of like, Sesame Street just added these two characters who are going to talk about racism in America. Said the young Muppet, "Can't I just talk about the alphabet?" And it's that same kind of thing of like, okay, I know I have a curriculum point to talk to, but like, can't we just do things that a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old would want to have on their mind?
Exactly. Oh, exactly. I had this one interview when I was doing Carly, and one of the questions that was asked was, and this person, they're like, "Now, Carly, I know that, being, that your mom's going through a hard time and that's really sad. What are some of the other things that make you sad?" And I was like,
oh my god,
what? Like, what?
This question? Right?
I was like, I guess I don't like it when I drop my ice cream, but like we made like a joke out of it, but I was like, what? Like, yeah, like, would you ask that of like a 4-year-old kid? Like, Like, oh, I know you're really sad right now. What other things make you really sad?
Yeah.
It's just not.
Oh my god.
It's
Yeah.
But
Wow.
but yeah, we get we as performers, we definitely prepare ourselves as much as we can for those kinds of questions, especially when you're in the character, because they'll come those questions that maybe a little kid, it's like, what? Like, how do I answer that?
Right. And if you're lucky, you're in their headspace enough to just like say something that you wouldn't have even expected when you were brushing your teeth that morning.
Yeah.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
Did we cover how she got to Sesame Street?
I don't think
How
so.
did you even get entangled with them initially?
Yeah, I sent in one of those auditions for one of the workshops, and I did the 2014 workshop, but in between the time of sending in the audition and then doing the workshop, I got called to assist Matt Vogel to do the Count's hands, or to right hand the Count. He was doing a bit on on the Katie Couric show, funny enough, and so yeah, it was just the Count, and it was me, Matt, and it was my first Sesame anything, and I was so excited and happy and nervous, and I just remember, day one of working with Matt, thinking like, oh, I know how to like break my tension of knowing how scared I am. So I went up to him, and now I know him perfectly well, and it's like, I don't think I'd ever do this again, but I was like, so Matt, as your assist, I'm supposed to like touch the Count's face a lot, right? Like that's what he does. Like he like touches his face, just like making a really stupid joke. And Matt was just like, what? No. And I was like, no, I'm kidding. Oh, this is awful now. And it was like, oh, good. Okay, great. And then we had a laugh about it, but it was like, this is a good time to do that.
Is Al Roker around? We'll get him.
Yeah, like someone else is going to be better suited than the person who just made this dumb joke. But
was that nerve-wracking too, to like, I mean, obviously it's your first Sesame thing, so like that in itself is kind of terrifying, but to also not be in the studio, like to be in a place where like the crew doesn't really know the puppetry, and maybe a wrangler is there, but like Matt's maybe even talking to a grip like, can I get a monitor please? It's not the nurturing environment of Kaufman Astoria.
Definitely. And you know what, actually on the show, so we were, we did it live. There was a live studio audience, and I mean, it didn't air live, but the bit that we did was live.
Yeah.
And sure enough, our monitor went out about 30 seconds before we were supposed to come up. And so Matt was like, we're behind a couch. We're hiding behind a couch, and there are children on the couch, because it was this whole surprise where the Count is, they were doing this whole Halloween thing. And it goes out, and he's like, can you get that person's attention? Because like he's like in the Count, he can't wave his arms, so he's ready.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, hey, Armando, like I'm just behind the couch, like trying to get this guy's attention, and we got the monitor up like just in time. But I think that maybe being in an environment where there were just a couple of us figuring it out, I do think that actually sort of took the nerves away. Maybe, because it felt so much more of like, on Sesame Street, you're so taken care of. Like, you've got the people who are putting the monitors where they need to go, and you don't ever worry about that stuff. But yeah, when it's a crew that isn't used to working with puppets, you have to do a lot of stuff on the fly, and it kind of sharpens your brain a little bit. And I don't know, I like it. I kind of like working with a crew who's never done it before sometimes, because I just think it's just kind of fun. It's, you get to have like a whole new conversation with somebody who is like, oh wait, so you have to see what you're doing? It's like, oh yeah, and this is why. And,
don't you?
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. I always explain it like, because sometimes you'll get some pushback if someone's like, well, we don't know if we can. It's like, no, like we have, we have to. I always say it's the same as if you hired a weather person, and they had a green screen behind them, and they're supposed to be pointing out the different counties. Like, they have to be looking at the monitor, because otherwise they have no idea what they're doing, and it just doesn't work. It's just the same thing.
That is it. Yeah, I've never heard that before, actually. That's really good. I was
say, we got to use that. That's great. Holy cow.
It's just a nice way to because everyone understands how that works, and it just immediately it's like, oh, okay, so you need, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it works.
That's crazy.
Wow. Yeah.
What an experience that must have been. Holy cow. Wow.
It was cool. It
Especially
was really
in that
neat.
moment too, like you're saying, like it's your first time there, and now something's going wrong. It's like, hey, you get their attention. Like, oh my god, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and
whatever you can do.
And it was also, Katie Kirk is sitting right there, like we're just behind her on the couch, ready to come up, just like, psst, trying to get this guy's attention, but we did it, and it was great, and the show itself was really fun, but it ended up being absolute chaos, because as soon as we came up, all the kids just rushed to the count. We're like grabbing them, and it was very fun, and it was just chaos and wonderful.
Putting their hands in his mouth.
Of course. Trying to pull the eyes off. You know how it is.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, sure.
Now, I want to get back into Don Quixote a little bit, too, because it's such a beautiful show. I've been watching it with my daughter, and she absolutely loves it.
Fred must love it.
She absolutely loves it. Fred can't get enough of it, with between the music and the characters so much. But also even things that I noticed too, like you were talking earlier about how everything's like made. There's a scene I saw where they had a plunger, and it's like nothing's from the real world. Everything's made, so it's a plunger that's a prop that somebody made. I'm sure Sesame Street can get away with getting some things locally and using it in a show. Like if they needed a spatula, everything's completely made. And like you said, a lot of those practical effects. It's just one scene I was watching, I was like, how is it actually working? You guys were in this carousel thing, and I'm like, I'm watching, I'm like, I actually don't think I know quite how they did that. I'm like, obviously, is it green screened or rotoscoping? I assumed rotoscoping based on what I was seeing, but I was like, holy cow. I'm even thinking, how are are they all just going in circles? And like, there's no, it was just, I'm sorry. Tell me how it was done.
Well, I will be killed if I tell you all the secrets, but I will say this, 99% of the stuff that we do on the show is practical and in camera. I mean, it's all practical. There's no digital things that are made for the show, but there is some rotoscoping. There's a little bit.
Yeah,
of that.
I saw some rod removal too, right?
Yes. Yeah, we do rod removal, which is cool because it's a whole new challenge of just being aware of where your rods are more than I usually am. But also you have the freedom in this show of picking a puppet's arm up and like having it up there and not worrying about this big rod that's going to be super distracting because it's going to go away. But then again, if you want to cross the arms or something, you have to just watch them where those rods go because you don't want to,
right.
our rod removal guy, Sandy, you don't want to take his weekend away every time you just like cross a rod and like, oh, sorry, Sandy.
When they do that, do they get a clean plate? Like, is it what's the process? Do you know what the process is of them being able to, when you bring that arm up and now there's a green,
Yes.
line across the screen, like, is that it? Do they have to take a clean plate for that, or is there something else that they do? Okay,
we do.
Yeah, but there's a lot of panning shots though that are moving camera. Those aren't. Yeah. They don't have it on a track that's automated that does two passes, right?
They don't. And so when the camera is stationary, we can do whatever we want with those rods. We try still not to cross the body because then they're going to have to, rotoscope and draw things back in. But yeah, they do. They just take a clean plate of the background and then they can remove them. But when it is a moving shot, we, as puppeteers, we do our very best to maybe not choreograph something where the arm is up and moving through a moving shot. Like, maybe maybe it's down here. That way it's just less work for them to do. But yeah, we do a lot of plates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. And can you tell us about the, is it your puppet wrangler who's a magician? Or-
Yeah.
When I heard that, I was just like, that is so brilliant. Like, I mean, talk about like an alchemy of just, putting two different artistic sciences together to make something greater than the sum of its parts. I'd love that.
Oh yeah. It's awesome. It's like well, his name's Michael Schwabe, and he's a wonderful wrangler, a builder and puppeteer, but he's a phenomenal magician, and he's the one who I think would kill me if I told you all of his secrets. Like, there's a magician's code, of course, understandable. But yeah, he comes up with things that I can't tell you how they're done, but they're all practical and they're all in camera. And let me say, if you watch the episode called A Favor for Grampy, there are a couple little parts in the show where Grampy Hodie is trying to juggle some coconuts. And that is 100% done in camera practically with nothing removed. So if you watch that, see if you can figure out how it's done, because I was standing there on the set watching it happen and I still don't fully understand what I was watching. It was one of the coolest tricks I've ever seen, and no post on it. It was right there watching a puppet juggle 3 coconuts, and it looks phenomenal. But yeah, if you have like you can just go to the PBS Kids website and see that episode and fast forward to like a couple minutes from the end and you can see it and just see if you can figure it out, because it's really cool.
What kind of magic does he do?
A lot of illusion things.
Oh, like stage illusion stuff? Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I was a professional magician for like 10 years doing shows all over all over the local area and stuff.
Yeah.
I do it less so now ever since I started teaching. But it can be another whole way of thinking, especially with the stage illusion stuff. You're just knowing how those kind of tricks work and stuff. It can be very interesting. But
I'd be curious what you think about that juggling rig.
Yeah,
there's
I'll have
a lot
to
of
check
other
that
ones
out.
like
I'm
that.
really excited about that. Yeah, I didn't see that one yet. We watched a whole bunch of episodes this week, and
it's cute. It's all about donkeys trying to walk this giant elephant. It's like Grampy's dog is actually just a giant elephant. That's his pet. But it's that one. So if you see that, look for the juggling. It's really cool.
I want to ask you about the Don Quixote puppet itself too, because it's such a differently like shaped puppet than like most puppets that you kind of see. Like having like such a large head and those tiny little arms. Did it take any getting used to even just like using that character and the way that it moves so much? Because a character like that, I feel like, again, obviously you would know, but like other characters, you can get probably like a lot more head turn, whereas it's probably turning a lot more of the body with the turning of the head like that, right?
Yes. So for Donkey, she doesn't have a separate
neck sleeve?
Yeah, exactly. Neck sleeve. Thank you. It's one piece of fur, and so when you turn, it does turn her body. But what she does have is she doesn't have foam through here, so you still have a lot of give. But yeah, she was a very, very big challenge. Like in our earlier episodes, oh man, I just remember, David was always like, just try to ride that line. Cause I don't have a donkey puppet here, but what I do have is someone made this off of Etsy.
Oh, really?
Nice.
That's cute.
I call her Ponky Doty. Hey guys. But so to give you like a visual, this is not quite sized like Donkey. Donkey's head would be a lot bigger, but I tried to ride this line where right below her stomach, and I'm not sure if what you guys are seeing on screen is similar to what I'm seeing, but I'm seeing the bottom of her white part is touching the bottom of my screen right now. Mm-hmm. I try to ride it right there, because if I go down a little bit, all of a sudden she's just a head. Yeah, and then if I go up, you start to see legs, which we don't want to see. And her legs are attached to her at all times. There's no there is a tube that I'm going through, but you're going to immediately see this leg crease. And so I've got this tiny little space to play with her. And so that was a really big challenge. I was like just walking with her, like, how does it look like when she walks? Because I'm used to having more of a bounce. But for her, I couldn't really do that. So her walk is like very much like in her elbows is kind of what we developed for her. It's less of an up and down, or a big side to side walk. It's very marchy, like how she likes to do it.
And in the show, they pan out to a lot of full body shots too.
Yeah.
What's that like? That's got to be something a little different than what you've done performing wise in the past, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's all Bunraku style. It's full body puppets that we have on green, where it'll be 3 of us. It'll usually be me doing her head, and sometimes a head and an arm. I like to do a head and then hold on to the base of her tail, just to give me some more control. And then we'll have another puppeteer doing the arms and so on the legs. And there's a lot of cool full body stuff that we get out of them. And it's funny, so we don't have a separate donkey that's made specifically for full body. So they'll actually take, we have 2 donkeys, but they'll take one of them and they'll remove part of her mane, and then sometimes I'll go in through right there. So, since she's on a table, I can't get underneath her that easily. So going through the back. Yeah.
So when you do that tabletop stuff, sometimes there's multiple characters. Do they usually have the multiple characters all being done at the same time, or are they separate takes and stitched together?
Separate takes and stitched together.
Oh my gosh, that's hard.
For the most part. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Get the timing down and stuff. So then were those vocals like pre-recorded then for the...
Sometimes.
Yeah,
sometimes we'll just do them right there on the floor. We'll, we don't even go into a booth. We just stand there right before doing it, and we, Frankie and I will say our lines together, because it's often Panda and Donkey.
Yeah.
Wow. And then we'll listen to the track a couple times and try to get the timing. We have done a couple of shots where there's more than one in there. We did a big group shot where we're holding up Bob Dog, and I think there were 4 puppets in there, all tabletop, all holding up this character, and that was really tough. And it was the last shot of the day. Of course, it's like the hardest shot we've done, and it was the last one. But I think we got it. But it's cool too. Also, so Donkey's legs. Just gonna keep using her. So her legs, like the actual puppet's legs, are very swingy like this, and that's really come in handy for a lot of the full body stuff. Like we did this bit where Donkey is trying to squeeze juice out of a giant lemon, and she jumps on top of it, and all of a sudden the lemon starts rolling, and she's going with the lemon. And we had this whole plan with a puppeteer on the feet doing like the feet running on the lemon to make it look like it was rolling. As it turns out, if I just had her up there and just like did this with her,
oh my God.
They just magically worked.
Yeah.
Wow.
Perfectly. And it's just like one of those happy things. It just happens to be how they're made. And the legs are actually made a lot like this, in that it's skinny right here, and then it's a thick leg. So they have this natural swing. When we need to use it, we've used it. It's been very helpful.
That's amazing. And this is, based on everything we've talked about, this is probably the first time you've used raised sets too. Is it, or one of the first for television at least, right?
Yeah.
That's got to be.
That's true. I haven't even thought about that, but yeah,
much easier too, right?
Oh my gosh, yes.
And being behind a couch with Matt Vogel, it's got to be real. It's got to be real comfortable doing that.
It's true. Yeah, it's great. It's great to be standing.
Yeah. So much more you can do. Because I saw, and I haven't been to the Sesame Street sets before, and I'm sure they're maybe it's just the view that I had. But I found it randomly on YouTube somewhere, a wide shot of the entire set of Don Quixote. I was like, wow, that's a big space.
Yeah.
And I love the way that those mountains are all like the way that they have them spread out like that, so you get nice dynamic movement when the camera moves and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And it just looked like, oh my gosh, what a luxury to have a space like that to shoot something.
Yeah.
I was just taken back by it. Wow, it was so cool.
We're very lucky. And it's funny, the first day I came in there, they were just loading in. I came in, I think, 2 weeks before we started actually shooting, or maybe a week, just to kind of do like a set visit and like not a chemistry test because we'd already been hired in the roles, but just to play around with Donkey Panda with our producers and everything to kind of figure out some of their dynamics before day one. But they were loading in. I remember looking and I was like, how will we ever fill this? It's such a big space. And of course, now every corner of it is full.
Yeah.
But it's great. It's a great studio. It's in, it's like north of Chicago. It's it's so easy to get there, which I really like. It's really nice to not have to like take a subway or like 3 subways, to get to work. It's really, really nice to drive. It's the little things that make your day really lovely.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great set. It's a big set and it's a great team of people. And I will say, out of every show I've ever worked on, this show every show has had its positives, but something really cool about this one is that it is a smaller crew. I think there's around 35 maybe of us there, as opposed to 100 plus on other bigger sets. Really? And so it's great, and we've all been there for 2 years for the most part. There's been very little turnover, or people have gone to other shows, or people have been brought in, and so it's been very special. It's a very tight knit family on this nice little show, and it's just such a pleasure to work on it. I'm sad we're going to be wrapping in November. It feels very far away, but in this scheme of 2 years, it's nothing.
Right.
Yeah. Well, wrapping in November.
Yeah.
Crazy,
One other thing about that show, not to discredit, a Sesame Street or other shows, but the manipulation that you guys get is just out of this world. I mean, we've already talked about, what you guys have been able to do with, the practical things in camera and all that sort of stuff. But can you attribute to like, is that just more of a priority as you are creating this show? Like, is that something that between what David's asking for and the directing team and stuff, that you're just focusing more on that manipulation and creating something that is that visually dynamic, or like what can you attribute that to?
Yeah, I'm going to attribute that to David. David, as our head director. We've also had his brother Adam directed for just a day when David wasn't there, but also Frankie Cordero's been directing, and it's been awesome.
I didn't know that.
Fantastic. Yeah, he's directed I think 3 or 4 episodes so far, and
wow, that's awesome.
I don't think any of them have aired yet. They're in this newer batch, but he's a fantastic director. But yeah, I'm gonna say that the manipulation, it's really all David. His vision for this show is for it to be very active, and we shoot with only one camera. It's a single camera show, as opposed to Sesame Street, which has 3. Helpsters had 3. Now they have 2, and now they're doing it 2 camera this year. But the good thing about having it just be a single camera show is that every shot can be framed exactly how you want it. You don't have to suddenly say, you know what, I know you're shooting your close up, but you got to get farther back. That way this camera can get in there. And then all of a sudden,
compromising for anything.
There's no compromise no compromise needed, as far as framing a shot. So we try not to be, puppets at the bottom of a big wide frame, but also just as much in camera stuff as we can do. We try to do. If there's something where it's like, okay, we're going to do this move on green screen, but if we find out that we can actually get away with doing it without it, then we're going to do it without it. Like, yeah, and that's really David. And also just I think having 2 years to work on the show, we're constantly finding new things we can do. One of the newest things with Donkey is that the puppet itself has gotten so wonderfully broken in that that when I'm doing her now, so if I'm puppeteering her, I'm actually taking my pinky and I put my pinky in this spot that's right beneath the foam. And my pinky now can make the corner of her mouth go up or go down. So if she's facing this way, I can change like her expressions just here. And that's something that we couldn't do before because it wasn't that broken in. Like we couldn't get to that spot. And I've never done that with a puppet. But now we've discovered that just because of time gave us that gift of her mouth breaking in. And now all of a sudden it can do something new. So yeah, it's just time has given us a lot of things with these puppets that maybe in the first couple of months we just couldn't do. It wasn't possible yet.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So Hayley, before we wrap up, like, is there anything that you were hoping to be able to say about the, Don Quixote or any of your other projects that through our questions you weren't able to talk about?
Oh, sure. Well, I will say that Helpsters is filming its season 2, or I guess technically it would be season 3 because they broke up the first one into 2 seasons.
Yeah.
But I just did a week with them, and it was great. I think it's going to be another phenomenal, run of shows. Those guys are so good. I do too. It's really funny and so weird. And I saw you guys interviewed Ingrid too, and she's just my new puppetry idol.
Yeah, she's a hoot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
really
she's awesome. She's awesome. But yeah, I would say that Helpsters. I'm so happy that it's back. I wish I could work on it I did the first season of it, and I'm not available now, but the 1 week I got to do, I think it's just they're just upping the weirdness and the funny factor. It's gonna be great. Yeah, so I would encourage people to check that out when it comes out.
Definitely.
Yeah, I
would love that show.
Yeah.
Well, Hayley, we ask everybody who comes on the show if they have a good puppeteer story about a time when things didn't go quite right, either on set or on stage, but that looking back now, we could have a good laugh and shed a puppeteer.
Absolutely.
I'm sure you've got a million of them.
Let me see here. Oh, okay, I got one. When I was working at Playhouse Disney Live on Stage, back when we still had the Bear and the Big Blue House characters, we had one of our puppeteers was in Bear, and she was walking across the stage as Bear, and it's our job to close these trap doors, and I went to close my trap door, and there was this bungee that had gotten undone that got caught around the loop of this trap door thing, and so it took me 3 extra seconds to get it done, but in those 3 extra seconds, Bear came in through the trap door, and I saw Bear coming, and I used my hands, and she was like, "What?" I pushed Bear's foot back up. She stepped right on my hands because it was happening, and I was like, "Ah!" and just grabbed Bear's leg, and she was okay. But it was just like on the show, it must have looked like Bear did like a big dip. That was. Oh my God.
What did the performer say after the show? Did they say anything? They may not even have quite known what was going on. Oh, why was that step weird? Yeah. Oh, whatever. Like, just so you know, you almost died. Yeah,
you almost died.
You almost died.
And Bear's gone in through the trapdoor plenty of times. Like, that is something that happens, unfortunately. Like, it's not, it was never planned.
Right.
And always it's a very scary thing anytime that it did happen. It was rare, but yeah, oh my gosh. Afterwards, I was like, "Are you okay?" And she was like, "Yeah, what? What happened? Thanks."
You're like, that's other duties as assigned.
I guess we gotta go get some more college students. Right?
Yeah, that's right. Get those
another Bear went down.
They'll do it. I did black out while I was in Pluto once. I was in the middle of signing. It was so hot. It was just, I got overheated.
Yeah.
Florida heat. I was signing, and then all of a sudden I was just on the ground. I was
Oh my
kneeling and
God.
signing, and then I was just on the ground, and I was like, oh, all right. And then you do this thing as a costume character. If you need help,
Oh yeah, there's signs, right?
yeah, you have signs. You cover up one eye, like the character's eye, which would be up here. But you cover up an eye and then you raise your hand. And that's the signal that you as a person inside need help from, one of the people who's there
Or
to
they
help
just
you.
see you laying on the ground.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's also
that person
like,
needs help. Oh, Pluto's sleeping.
Pluto needs a nap.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And all sorts of things happen with that. I got bitten by an ant while I was inside the Flick costume, which is an ant in Disney. I leaned up against like this thing that had all these ants on it, and they got inside the head, and all of a sudden I was like, "What did I say?" Ah! And had to run off.
That's
but,
meta.
Yeah, it was very meta. Very meta.
Wow.
I'm sure that as soon as we're done with this, I'll think of some brilliant story. It's like, that thing happened. But,
Oh, that's so funny. So what's the best way for people to follow your work and see what other things you're doing?
Honestly, I'm not a big social media person. I'm on Instagram, but you'll see I have 7 posts, and I've been on there for years. And so for me, my life is eating, sleeping, breathing Don Quixote right now.
Yeah.
So I would say, please check out that show if you like puppetry or if you like magic tricks. Check it out and see if you can figure out how we're doing half the stuff that we're doing, because I'm there and I don't even know half the time because it's really cool stuff. I would just encourage people to check that show out, especially if you have little ones too. It's a fun
and just so people know
show.
too, I know there's what's the best way for people to actually see that though? What is it on again?
Oh yeah.
I know it's
so
in a lot
PBS.
of places, but yeah.
Sure. It's PBS Kids, so it's completely free. You don't have to have cable to see it. You can either download the free PBS Kids video app. You can just go to the PBS Kids website, or you can just turn on PBS Kids on your TV.
Yeah, and we'll link some below too, because actually there's a whole bunch of full episodes on YouTube. I'm not sure if you even knew that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and PBS Kids, they put it up on YouTube. Also, since it's PBS, it's free content, and there's a lot of it. And we just dropped, I think, another 8 episodes recently, and we got 40 to drop in the next couple months.
A lot more coming. We're excited to watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot more coming. It only gets better.
That's great. Well, Hayley, thank you so much for joining us on Puppeteers.
Thank you, you
it was
guys.
so great to talk with you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
You too. Yeah, thank you both so much. This was such a pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.
We're at the end of another episode of Puppeteers, but the fun doesn't stop here.
Visit puppeteers.com for show notes and links to projects mentioned in this episode.
Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at PuppeteersPod, where we're posting new things every day.
Puppeteers is edited by Matt Bowen and made possible thanks to viewers like you.
If you enjoy this content, you can join our incredible Patreon patrons who are supporting the show for as little as $1 per episode. Those folks get access to early releases, uncut episodes, official Cup O tiers just like we use on the show, and could even submit interview questions for our guests. Go to patreon.com/puppeteerspod to learn more.
Another great way to support Puppeteers is rating and reviewing us on iTunes, leaving a comment or subscribing to this channel, or tell a friend about your favorite episode.
Thanks again for joining us on Puppeteers Puppetry Shop Talk, in-depth interviews with the world's most passionate puppeteers.
Hosted by me, Adam Krutinger.
And me, Cameron Garrity. Because it's focusing on getting the highest quality audio and video that it can.
Great. Good to know.
No problem. Do you need us to give you a second? do you need a?
So I got, because my allergies just flared up like 3 days ago. It's like clockwork. It's always like 3 days before school starts.
Yeah.
And there's so many different things to take. And not only that, the Claritin, like, it takes like a couple days to get into your system to work.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Oh my God.
It just makes me really tired for like 2 days, and then it starts working.
Yeah,
Even though it says non-drowsy, I don't agree.
No.
For emergencies, I use this Afrin, which I know you're not supposed to use. Well, you can't use that daily I think it's like a steroid or something. It
Right.
become like dependent on it, so I only use it
Yeah.
for things that. Hold on a second.
Yeah, like your nasal passages will get used to it, and then it'll start like swelling up if you don't have it. That's what I've heard. I don't know.
Yeah.
I say take the Afrin if the Afrin works.
Wow, what a kickstart! Holy. Oh God. Okay.
He usually does something harder before we start, but no.
The coffee, espresso.
Yeah.